Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good morning and welcome to College Tuanku Jaffa. My name is Glenn Moodie and I'm very proud to be the principal of this school. I joined the school almost 2 years ago now, and I found it to be a warm and welcoming environment, and also an institution which provides the highest quality of education. And I am a parent of the school as well as the principal. I moved to Malaysia having spent nearly 20 years working in private boarding schools in the UK, including most recently as the head of a school in Cornwall. There is a lot to tell you about boarding at KTJ Secondary, and I will soon pass over to our Director of Boarding, John Hughes, who will explain more. However, before I do this, I want to give you just a little bit of the background of the school. KTJ was founded in 1991, making us one of the more well-established international schools in Malaysia. It was founded by three members of the Negeri Sembilan royal family, Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Nakiden, Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Dara, and Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Imran, and named in honor of their father, who was, of course, a king of Malaysia. They were inspired by their boarding school experiences in the UK, and their vision was to provide a similar experience here locally in Malaysia, embracing the best of British and international education, but firmly rooted in a Malaysian context. KTJ provides a comprehensive all-round education, which we feel offers the best preparation for students' future lives, education, and careers. We believe in delivering not just an academic education inside the classroom, but educating the whole person. This includes helping students to find their passions, building their characters, and giving them a global perspective. Underpinning all of this is a strong mission and ethos, which goes back to the founding of the school. At the heart of this are our values of integrity, empathy, and mutual respect. These values are central to the way the school is run and to the decisions which we make. KTJ has an ambitious vision for the next 10 years, and you can find out more about this from our publication, Vision 2030, which is available on our website. So I would just like to reiterate what I said at the beginning, a very warm welcome to KTJ. I hope you find this morning's presentation informative, and I hope we will see you again soon. I will now pass over to John, who will deliver a presentation on boarding at KTJ. If you have any questions for either John or me, you can ask these via the chat feature. We will then do our best to answer all questions following the presentation. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Glenn. Good morning, everybody. It's really nice to speak to you this morning and have the chance to talk to you about boarding in particular. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. I've worked in boarding schools for the last 25 years in the UK and in Malaysia. I've been at KTJ for the last 13. I arrived in early 2008, and I've been the director of boarding here for the past 8 years. We have 10 boarding houses here at the school, and we have a team of house parents and over 40 other house staff who are dedicated to supporting our boarders as they develop from pre-teens through their teenage years and into young adulthood. All of our support staff are employed locally and they're not outsourced, and we are proud of our positive engagement with the local community. As Glenn said, the royal family of Negeri Sembilan set up the school in the late 80s, early 90s, and the trustees are active, engaged, and committed to our mission, vision, and values. KTJ is unique. We're not a business, but we do not have shareholders or profit margins. We're 100% committed to education and boarding, and our students, our community, are all at the core of what we do. We want to offer the highest quality education at an affordable price. And our mission clearly states that we want to provide a holistic British-style boarding education in a Malaysian setting. We are the only school in Malaysia that is a registered charity and is also a member of the 6 organisations you see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, many of which are international organisations, and no other school in Malaysia can make this claim. I do recommend you look into these organisations and see the work they do to support what we do here at KTJ. We have newly refurbished boarding houses in a beautiful campus, some of which pictures you can see here. We've got established boarding traditions in a safe, secure, and caring community. Our reputation in Malaysia is very strong. Shell, Bank Negara, Petronas, and others send their scholars to us, and we have multiple Kijang Emas students at the school. We've developed an international and intercultural school environment. More than 20 different nationalities are at the school, and we are diverse and our differences are celebrated. We're also one of Southeast Asia's largest boarding schools, with approximately 650 boarders, looked after by experienced and caring staff. The vast majority of our boarders do stay at school 7 days a week, and we have lessons on Saturday mornings. Some boarders do go home weekly, and some also have flexi boarding requests, and which we adhere to. And we have a wide range of activities for all of our boarders in the evenings and at weekends. In fact, there are a total of more than 100 extracurricular activities a week for students to choose from. We have enrichment lectures in the evenings, celebrations of cultural events, sporting, music, dramatic and artistic events for the students to choose from each week and over the weekends. These give our boarders a chance to compete, to learn to train, to prepare, to win and lose, and to work together. We have more than 20 annual house competitions in sports, music, the arts, and drama, as well as some academic realms. Our boarders are actively encouraged to have a voice and to engage in activities. They must spend at least 2 hours a week enriching themselves through clubs of their choice, and many spend many more hours than that. Our clubs and societies are in fact often inaugurated by students who come up with new ideas, and then staff support them, encourage them to have a voice and to lead. We have regular national and state sports level representation. We're the current Southeast Asian forensics champions. We're the current Malaysian schools debating champion. And we also regularly produce students who have best in the world results in their IGCSE and A-level results. Our enrichment programs, which take place in the evening, are offered to all of our older students from Form 4 upwards, and these look at key areas beyond the syllabus and parents preparing them for life after KTJ. One of the most important aspects of being a boarder is friendships, and these are formed within and beyond the house that the student is in. Many of our students do go on to work together, often across international borders. And I've had the joy over my 13 years of attending several KTJ weddings where both the bride and the groom are alumni of the school. The majority of our staff are Malaysian. Another unique feature of the school is that compared to our international rivals, we remain extremely committed to the core values of Malaysian culture. We value the respect for teachers, for parents, for education, for religion and for good morals. While at the same time, we want to help our boarders to understand how to thrive in and appreciate intercultural and international environments. We offer a range of extra opportunities to allow students to develop themselves. KTJ is not an ordinary school. We believe strongly in going beyond the classroom and adding in the extras that will allow our students to be extraordinary. As Glenn said, our values are integrity, mutual respect, and empathy. And we firmly believe in a holistic education. Being able to speak in public, to perform in a team, to listen and respect others' points of view, to stand up for what is right, to be curious, to question ideas, to learn to fail, and to understand and respect other cultures are far more useful skills and traits than being able to solve a quadratic equation or being able to name the first 20 elements of the periodic table. Boarding teaches young people to be independent, tolerant, reflective, while at the same time giving them role models amongst their peers and the older students to look up to and to learn from. Students are looked after by staff who understand teenage angst, mood swings, and adolescent development. Our tutors and house parents are experienced educational experts who can assist students with their work and guide them in their sleep and work patterns. We can also help them with their friendships and their attitudes. Boarders have access to academic staff, teachers in the evenings and at weekends, and can seek extra help and tuition on campus in those times, whenever it is needed. We also encourage our students to be altruistic and through our association with a number of different charitable groups, including People to People International, Leo Club, which is a branch of the Lions, through our work with the Enzin Foundation, and through Interact, we also get our community involved in a wide range of charitable projects. We encourage not just our students, but also our parents, our alumni, our staff, and the board to get involved in these projects in line with our school values. We have first-class facilities. We have a fully equipped health centre with 4 qualified nurses and a full-time resident school doctor, something that's also quite unique, I believe, amongst our rival schools. Our 80-acre campus boasts 2 swimming pools, multiple squash courts, which were recently opened by Nicole David, a rugby pitch, which is used by the Negri Sembilan Wanderers, the current Premier League team, a cricket pitch, which is used by the Malaysian Cricket Association, 2 football pitches, a hockey pitch, a large multi-purpose hall with 6 badminton courts, 4 basketball courts, a 1.9 kilometre running track, and a fully equipped school gym. And every evening, when you go out for a walk, you can see hundreds of boarders playing and enjoying the facilities or just taking a walk with their friends. Our newly built state-of-the-art waterfront building is fully equipped for students who want to refine their artistic abilities. And there are music practice rooms available for students who want to hone their skills. We also have on site a cafe, an ATM, a school shop, a convenience store, and a library which is open in the evenings and weekends. That includes computer suites where students can do work and have quiet space to reflect on their week. Our houses are designed to get the best out of our boarders. And unlike some other schools where boarders are given single ensuite rooms, here at KTJ we firmly believe that students should learn to live together, and it's through their social interactions with other students that they learn the most. So therefore we have our youngest students sharing in dormitories, and as they get older, we gradually move towards single rooms for our senior students. We want them to learn to live in a multicultural setting and to learn to tolerate the differences between themselves and others. All boarders at KTJ are treated equally, regardless of their background, and all are expected to engage in chores in the house, including pantry duties and recycling duties, which we hope will help them to learn to work together and to become global citizens. Many parents do admit to me when they first bring their son or daughter to the school that their child's a little bit manja, a little bit pampered. And here at KTJ, that I can promise you that we'll have very high expectations of them, and we'll teach them to think and act for themselves rather than relying on their parents to do everything for them. Parents do also often mention laptops and mobile devices and students' misuse of them or reliance on them. And I can promise you that here at KTJ, we are very experienced at dealing with issues such as mobile devices, and we've established rules and procedures in the houses and in the school to make sure that young people learn to be educated in how they should best use these things. For teenagers and young adults, friendship and role models play a huge role in their development. And students, we find, are much more likely to follow a peer or an older student than they are perhaps to listen to their parents or a teacher. Here at KTJ, we've created a fantastic house system based on the British boarding model, where students are in a safe, supportive environment, and older students are given the responsibility and leadership to act as buddies, to act as big brothers and big sisters for our younger students, offering academic support, reading support, coaching younger teams, and encouraging them to be good young people. This also benefits our older boarders as they learn to lead, develop their confidence, and practice their public speaking, team building, and motivational skills. All of this is done, of course, with oversight of experienced staff who guide and help the students. We have also the highest standards in safeguarding. We have 2 full-time school counsellors, one of whom is resident to support our boarders' emotional needs. Boarders are given time to enjoy the extras we offer. Those who don't have to travel to school often save up to 10 hours or more a week, in which time they can enjoy our facilities and the options we offer. Parents also comment to me they often worry about the relationships between themselves and their son or daughter if they were to send them to board. I'd like to reassure you that our experience and independent research worldwide actually points to that bond strengthening, not weakening for boarding students. As the school deals with the difficult issues of being a teenager, schoolwork, homework, friends, untidy rooms, hormones, our house staff are extremely experienced at dealing with these issues, and they understand teenagers, having dealt with hundreds of them in their time at the school. We find that students have more harmonious relationships with their parents when they do meet them at weekends and for exeats, because they really look forward to spending time together and they don't have to worry about the nitty-gritty of being a teenager. We do encourage our parents to come to school often and to meet us and to join in with these activities that take place on weekends and evenings. And we do have many parents who are very closely connected to the school, even if their sons or daughters are boarding. Lastly, I'd like to say that to really experience KTJ, you need to come and talk to our students and our boarders. You need to see our facilities. You need to talk to members of our community. And we can certainly put you in touch with people who will be able to talk to you about the school in greater detail. We're extremely proud of what we offer, and we fully believe that your child will thrive here. So please do contact us if you'd like more information, and please do ask any questions you have in the presentation.
Thank you very much, John. Right, so a reminder to everyone that you can ask questions via the chat function, so please do that. John, I wonder if I could start by asking you to explain in a bit more detail what a typical day might be like for a student. I know there's not really a typical day, but take say a Form 4 student. What might happen, during the course of a typical day for them?
So normally the house staff will wake them up in the morning. We have school starts at 8 or 8:30 each day, depending on the day of the week. And the house staff would normally wake them up perhaps an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half before school begins. The students then would shower in houses and prepare in houses. They would go to breakfast, with different menus on different days. I think nasi lemak Thursday is the favourite. And then they would go to lessons at 8 or 8:30. They have a full day of lessons. We have about half an hour for break time in the morning and an hour for lunch. And the lessons would then finish at about 3:30. And after 3:30, there's tea, afternoon tea, where the students get some teh tarik or kueh. And then we have activities for 2 hours after school in each evening. For Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, these activities are chosen by the students. And they can choose a wide range, I say over 100 activities. And on a Wednesday, it's a bit more special because we have house activities where we prepare for the house competitions, the house sports, and the house drama, the house singing, and the students get to train together and work together. And that's often where our older students will be most engaged in leading and helping the younger students to develop. On Saturdays after school, it's slightly different. We finish at lunchtime, so we finish at 1 o'clock, but on Saturday afternoons, normally we have house sports and house competitions which students can engage in. Normally then at 6:30, 6:45 onwards, it's dinner time until about 7:30. Many students will be on the field after 6 o'clock and walking because it's nice and cool at that time. So after the ECAs finish, the fields will be full of people if it's not raining, from 6 till 7, playing sports, walking, enjoying some free time before dinner. And then after dinner, we have 7:45 p.m. will be prep time in the houses where they're fully supervised in their rooms. If they're the younger students, they're supervised in a prep room from Form 1 and 2, but the older students have prep in their rooms. And then at 8:45, that would be the end of first prep. A year 10 would go to bed then. Form 4 and Form 3 would go to bed at 10 p.m. And the senior students would do second prep, 9:15 to 10 p.m. So the younger students can also get a bit of free time after prep, an hour and a quarter, and they can go and get some food from the tuck shop, etc. On a weekend, it's slightly different. We do have a Saturday evening program where every Saturday students can join in with activities, and actually our program is designed to be student-led and student-engaged. So the students perform in a number of different ways. And also on Sundays, there's often lots of events, very busy on a Sunday. It's not really a quiet day Sunday. We still have prep in the evenings, and we still have many things going on, trips, activities, on-site and off-site.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question here. Does KTJ segregate rooms by age? Yes, so we do, definitely by age, mostly by year group. And sometimes we do mix up consecutive year groups. There is some fluidity in Malaysia with ages of students. So we look at age, maturity, and we certainly wouldn't put a gap of 2 year groups in the same room. One year group, we can manage that. Sometimes Form 1 and 2 might be together, or Form 3 and 4 might be together. But of course, we look at their age and maturity when considering that. It would be a little bit unusual, but it does happen occasionally. Mostly they're in the same room as the same form.
But of course, even within a form, there can be slight variations.
Okay, thank you. Now, we obviously are having to make some changes to boarding because of COVID-19. Now, we very much hope there'll be temporary changes, but I wonder if you could explain what those changes are that we are putting in place for September when our borders return.
Yeah, well, we're following all the government SOPs, but we're enhancing those because we're members of the Boarding Schools Association, which is a worldwide organisation, as well as CIS, the Council of International Schools, and COBIS, the Council of British International Schools. So we've not just looked at Malaysia's SOPs, we've looked at the worldwide SOPs and put best practice into place. So I meet regularly with heads of boarding from different countries, Korea, China, England recently. We had to set up a seminar with my boarding staff to discuss what they're doing. And so we're observing the social distancing. We're having to remove some furniture, some areas. We're having to limit the use of some equipment and how we use it, and think about how we use things like water fountains and how people use showers, and whether we have to have staggered timings. We're very much in the planning stage because we're not due to open until September the 1st, and we're hopeful that the SOPs will allow our students to enjoy the facilities as much as possible by then. But if that's not the case, then certainly we'll be putting in every measure practicable to worldwide standards, not just Malaysian standards, to make sure our borders are safe and our staff and community are safe as well.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Question here, do all lower six share a room with one roommate and upper six don't share a room?
No, that's not the case. So it depends a little bit. We don't have a fixed amount of lower six and a fixed amount of upper six. So year on year it can vary, and from house to house it can vary. Our houses were built at different times. So some have more single rooms than others, and some upper six actually were asked to share. Some of them prefer to share because they can share with a friend. And I think at university that's also an option for students, especially if they're going overseas. And I'd encourage them to share in many ways because if they've got strong friendships, which they certainly will have by upper six, then they enjoy being in a room together. And often when you're working hard, you can isolate yourself in a single room, so it's not always advisable for all students to be in a single room. But if there is an excess of students in upper six and there are a limited number of single rooms in a house, then what we'd normally do is rotate the students around so they'd all get some time each, so it's fair and equitable.
Okay, thank you. Right, the next question is, what does PrEP mean? Which I think I can answer. PrEP is short for preparation. It's the word that traditionally is used in boarding schools. It comes from British boarding schools, and it's just the word for homework. So it's the word we use for homework. John, next question is, do the seniors get to go out on weekends?
The sixth form are allowed to go out on a day trip or overnight, but depending on whether there's any activities in the school that they need to take part in first. We never allow our students out without parental permission, so our campus is secure. We've got a fully guarded, gated campus, so students cannot get out without permission. And so parents would have to give their permission, and also house parents would have to agree that the students have fulfilled their school responsibilities first. But many of our students do go home, not that many, but more than a dozen will go home from each house probably each weekend. And of course, if they've got family commitments, weddings, dinner parties, religious celebrations, then we do allow our students to go home. Every third weekend or so, we have an exeat weekend, which means that most of our boarders go home, and it's normally a longer weekend. But even in those, we actually remain open, and our international students will stay in, and we'll take them out normally, apart from at the current times, but normally we take them out and do activities with them off campus. And actually, quite often we find that our local boarders want to stay in for exeats because they think it's more fun than going home. So, even at exeat, sometimes we have many boarders in who you might not normally think would stay in school. And because their parents are busy, working hard, and maybe they're doing things, and so the students can stay in school throughout the term.
Okay, thank you. Right. The next question says it's quite far from KL. Do you have a branch in KL? Well, we don't, unfortunately. But John, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the advantages of, having the boarding school out in the countryside. We are only about an hour's drive from KL, depending on traffic, of course. But what are the advantages of being where we are?
I mean, the first one is our incredibly beautiful campus space. Our students, when I talk to our alumni, one of the things they bemoan the most about missing about KTJ is the amount of space, the fields, the ability to play, and the ability to enjoy the beautiful campuses, the birds, the trees, the flowers, everything on the campus. So that's one huge advantage. The second huge advantage is safety. There is nowhere for our students to go to locally. We're sort of 5 kilometres from the nearest small town, and So we're in a very safe, secure setting where students can be secure, and parents don't need to worry about the sort of excesses of KL and other things that they might be concerned about with the young teenagers. So for me, they're probably the two key things.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I would agree, certainly the beauty of the site is one of its real advantages. I feel like I live here at the school, as do you, John, and I feel like I live in paradise. The next question is about, it says, does KTJ do weekday boarding? I think that means weekly boarding, which we do have an option for, but of course we have school on Saturday morning as well, so that would have to be taken into account. We don't traditionally have many weekly boarders, but John, do you want to say anything about that one?
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's some occasionally we do have somebody who, for example, if they're we have somebody who's a really good athlete and they need to go back for training, or people have a piano exam and we have piano teachers here. We have many different music instruments here, but some people, when they arrive at the school, they already have been working with a particular piano teacher for the last 10 years, and they're doing their grade 8 and they don't want to switch the teacher. So we can accommodate that, and then they can go home on a Saturday afternoon after classes and go back for their lessons and then come back on the Sunday. Occasionally, even some students come back on Monday mornings, depending on what's more convenient for their parents. Obviously, we do want to monitor their work and things, so if there are issues with their work, then we might have to discuss that. Yeah. But for the most part, it works very well, and parents, we work together with the parents to make the best fit for their child.
Yeah. Just in case that question was asking something else, we do have day students at KTJ in the secondary school in forms 1 to 5, but it is compulsory to board in the sixth form. We have a limited number of day places, and 3/4 of the secondary school are boarding. John, the next question is, I believe there is a tutor support system at KTJ after class. Can you elaborate? How would they help the kids coping with learning and development?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, they're so lucky. There are more than 50 staff living on site. I'm a mathematics and further mathematics teacher, so I live on site. And students just contact us and ask for support. I think it will be even easier for them now, because since going online, students have been able to contact me in the evenings and at weekends asking for help with a maths question. And our students the house staff are all teachers, so or all have degrees. If they're not a teacher, then they have a degree in a specific area. So all of them can help our students in a number of different ways. One of the other beauties of boarding, which I didn't mention, which I should have, is the fact that the students can ask for help from other students. And that's interesting, because I'm a mathematician, but I'm not a very good scientist. And in my house, which I ran here for 12 years, then when a student came to me and said, can you help with my chemistry? I would normally say, no, I can't, but I know somebody who can. And it's always easy to find somebody. So certainly we tell our boarders that there really isn't ever any excuse for not being able to do your work, because there's always somebody on site who can help you. And if you ask, they will, whether they be a teacher, an older student, or a friend. Yeah,
and I've experienced that myself. I was a student for a day back in February. I swapped places with a lower 6 student and spent the evening doing my prep in the boarding house. And I got a lot of help with my maths from one of the lower 6 students, who was a fantastic teacher, actually. John, do you want to add anything about the mentors there as well, and that, every student having a mentor?
Yeah, so we introduced a mentoring system a few years ago, and so every student now has a mentor who may or may not be a member of the house staff. The groups are approximately 12 to 15 students, and that mentor meets them once a week, and actually currently twice a week, and we're looking at making it twice a week more permanently, to sort of really get to know them as an individual. So, of course, they cover the topics like PSHE, but they also cover cultural ideas, and they look at medical issues, and they're basically an advocate for the student. There's somebody who's a regular point of contact. There's not the house parent. The house parent plays a very key role in looking after the students, but the mentor is an extra layer, somebody who students can talk to, confide in, ask questions of in a safe, secure setting. And those mentor groups are set up in small year groups in houses up to 6th form. In the 6th form, they're a bit more mixed. The mentor groups are more about academic focus for university preparation, organising yourself CV-wise, time management-wise, financially working out how to open a bank account and these sorts of things that they might need when they go overseas. So in the 6th form, it's a little bit more sort of logistical, but lower down, it's certainly pastoral and very focused on well-being.
Yeah. Okay, and speaking of finances, there's a question here about ATM machines. We do have an ATM machine at school, but John, can you remember which bank it's associated with? Certainly it works with Maybank.
And bank.
And bank, that's right. Yeah, okay.
Maybank card works. I've got Maybank and my card works.
Yeah, so I think it works with most Malaysian cards and overseas cards as well. So we're very lucky to have an ATM on site. But there is also a system where parents can preload cards for their children so that they can buy things at the cafe, at the tuck shop and school shop, and parents can monitor that. Okay, now one to test your memory, John, because we've just made changes to this. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about our mobile phone policy.
Oh, yeah. So we basically, initially we had banned mobile phones and devices from 4 till 6 p.m. each day. But because that's when we have a lot of our activities, it was a little bit hard to police it, and we felt that some students would circumvent it. And we had a lot of discussion and a lot of research by our assistant head of school pastoral, who looked at best practice worldwide. And we've come up with a zoning system. So we feel that there's certain areas where students, it's acceptable to use phones. There's certain areas where they should ask if I'm allowed to use phones. And there's certain areas where they should never be allowed to use their phones. And I'm quite old, so I certainly object to students using phones when they're eating. When I see people out in restaurants and students using their phones, I don't think that's very good. So we've banned phones in our dining hall, for example. Yeah. We ban phones in the auditorium when people are speaking and performing, because we feel that students should be listening and watching. Yeah. We don't allow phones after lights out, obviously, because students should be sleeping. And if students do, unfortunately, use their phones at the wrong time, then we confiscate the phones initially, and they're taken to a central place where the students can pick them up at the end of the day. And if they repeatedly transgress, then we'd have to have further sanctions and perhaps a longer period of confiscation if necessary. We find that it's important that students understand the boundaries with phones, as with everything, teenagers. And if we create clear boundaries, then there's actually just a very small percentage who struggle with that. Most of the students understand and can cope with our methods of sort of dealing with them.
Yeah. And I would add to that our aim is to educate students on how to use phones well. They're a part of life, they're a fact of life, and banning them outright is not, from our point of view, the best option. We also don't allow them to wander around down like this, looking at their phones, which you probably see a lot in shopping malls as well. What houses are there at KTJ, and what are the differences between the houses, John?
Okay, good question. So we have a junior house. So the boarding, there's a junior house which is Nakia, and that's separated into a boys and girls wing. So one side is boys, one side is girls, and that's Form 1, 2, and 3 boarders. And the central area, there's a lobby that's central, but they do have their own separate common rooms, pantries on their own sides, and prep rooms on their own sides. But they can mix together. The younger students, of course, when they're 11, 12, 13 years old, they're sort of quite happy to mix in together. When they become teenagers, we then move them into senior houses. We have 3 girls' houses and 4 boys' houses. The differences between them, I think that the boys aren't allowed into the girls' houses, but the girls are allowed into the lobbies of the boy houses. So the boys can't visit our girls' houses. Our girls' houses have internal balconies to sort of protect the privacy of some of our students. And the design of them is different, but they're very similarly, layout is similar, the rooms, the furniture, the sort of the setup that we've put into the houses, especially given we've refurbished all of them in the last 3 years. So in that refurbishment process, they actually became more similar than they were before. And so they're all now very in very good condition. The students get to enjoy the similar types of things. They all have pool tables, table tennis tables, TV rooms, pantries, prep rooms, discussion rooms. That's similar across all of the houses.
Yes, but they all have their own colour, their own animal, and their own charms.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we have lots of house rivalry. House competitions are extremely strong. I mean, it's one of the greatest things about boarding school, the houses and the commitment to the houses. So each one has their own colour. We have different animals, from scorpions to dolphins to sharks to phoenixes. And we have the songs are fantastic. So when we have house sports and competitions, then every house has got their own songs, and those songs keep developing and changing and evolving. And the house spirit is very much a part of the school. One of the things that the students most enjoy when we do surveys of parents and alumni and our students, one of the highest factors that comes up as the greatest thing about KTJ is the boarding, because it's like being in a team. It's like being in a club. It's like, there's a bonding thing that It's very difficult to sort of explain to people who haven't experienced it, but it's certainly one of the greatest strengths of KTJ.
Okay, thank you. Right, so one of the questions is about whether someone wanted to see a video of boarding rooms and facilities. I'm not going to show that now, but you can find it on our KTJ YouTube channel. There's a section called, let me just tell you what it's called. It's called Discover KTJ, and there are certainly a couple of videos in there, one called Boarding Facilities and one called KTJ Secondary School, which will give you, and also one on extracurricular, which will give you a good idea of facilities and boarding facilities. Right.
The school video also has quite a few snippets from boarding as well, where if you look at the general 5-minute long sort of video, it gives you quite a good insight into what the boarding school's like.
Yes, it does too. Right. And then how do parents receive updates about their kids' progress at school and the boarding house?
So we encourage our parents to contact us as often as they need to. Having good relationship with parents is really important. We do have Malaysian staff who can speak multiple languages in the houses, who can communicate with parents if necessary. So parents who aren't so confident speaking English can speak to a local member of staff. We even have a Korean member of staff who can help us with communications if we need to. And so what happens is every week the students, parents will receive a What's On, which is an updated sort of version of what's happening in the house that week, because we find that teenagers don't always tell their parents what's happening in the school. So that's sent every week, I think, with the principal's newsletter. We also then send out reports on a termly basis to all of our parents. We have parent-teacher meetings where parents are invited to come in. At the moment, it's twice a year to talk to the staff. But also when staff come in to pick up their sons and daughters, then there'll be boarding staff there who you can chat to and you can make an appointment to speak to. And actually, it's one of the nicest things about boarding parents, getting to know them a bit more personally than you might if you're just teaching a student. So because you're both trying to build their child and do the best for them, so the more interaction you can have with the house parent in particular is the better. And the house parents will certainly be very happy when parents reach out to them and to communicate regularly, especially when they first join. Parents are quite nervous, normally, especially the mums. And we can send messages to you and let you know they're getting on okay, and make sure they contact you. Sometimes parents do contact us saying, is my child still there? Are they alive? Because they're having so much fun, they forget to contact their parents. They're too busy doing the fun things at school. So I sometimes have to remind the students that they need to ring the mum to tell them they're okay and that they're doing well at school.
Okay, we've got 6 minutes left, John, and there are 4 more questions I'd like to try and get through. So let's try and race through them. The first one is, when will boarders know which house they are assigned to?
So normally, if they're new to the school, then we would send that out about a month or 2 before. The reason we don't do it any earlier is because we're quite full. Normally, we have a full boarding school, and that's a great place to be in. And so we need to sort of juggle and look at the total numbers and work out the age groups. So it's quite a logistical thing with 650 boarders. So normally it's about a month before. Obviously, at the moment, there's some uncertainty about what the MTO is going to mean, and it may mean that we have to adjust different bedding in different houses, and so it's a little bit more uncertain for September. And the later we make the decision, the better the decision we'll be able to make. And of course, we're planning for that. We've got reopening working parties, and we're looking at all those options. And we've got about plan A to Z at the moment. Honestly, there's a lot of different plans, and hopefully one of them will be the best fit. And if not, we'll make a new one for reopening. And
what about students choosing their own house?
We don't allow students to choose their own house. Students normally would follow family lines. So if they had a sibling in a house, because there's already a relationship with that house, then we would allow that. Sometimes they request not to because they want to have their own individual experience. Sometimes twins prefer to be in different houses, so we do allow that as well. But normally we don't allow anyone to choose because we're very confident that all of our houses are excellent. All of our house staff are excellent. We're proud of all of them. And allowing students to choose can be quite divisive, and we think that friendship groups are formed in houses, and my experience is that when students are placed in a house, they normally thrive no matter which house they're in.
Okay, there's a question here about modern languages, and I'll answer that one. So we offer, apart from English, we offer 3 modern languages: Mandarin, French, and Malay. Of course, it is compulsory for all Malaysians to do Malay up until the end of Form 5. They can choose to do another language. For other students, they can choose in Forms 1 to 3 to do any two of a choice of three, which are Malay, Mandarin, and French. Thereafter, they are required normally to do one language for IGCSE. Some choose to do two. And with Mandarin, there are three different levels that are offered: first language, second language, and foreign language. And again, for Malay, we offer both first language and foreign language now. First language Malay is a recent addition to the IGCSE suite. Okay, John, so the question here, how do you handle if a student is caught smoking? And the first thing to say, I think, would be that we treat smoking and vaping as the same, but do you want to say more about that?
So we have a set procedure. Obviously, it does happen with teenagers. It's normal for people to take risks when they're young people. They're developing and they want to test boundaries. So we have a very clear procedure on smoking. We have a different offence levels. On the first offence, normally be dealt with by the house parent, who would talk to them about the dangers of smoking. And we write a letter home to the parents and tell them that this has happened. And quite often we find out that the parents have already caught them at home before we've caught them, and they know about it. So if you do know, then it's good to inform the teachers first so we can keep an eye out for it. And then on the second offence, it would escalate then to the assistant head of school, pastoral, and then they would write a letter home. Third offence would escalate to the head of school, pastoral, and so on up to the principal. And occasionally it can result in being in the principal's office and being asked, if they really feel this is the right fit for them, the right school. Because it's important that students understand that the boundaries they need to follow in the school. But that's quite rare for them to end up in the principal's office. Normally the first few steps tend to work.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. And let's try and get through our final question, which is, have you encountered situations where kids miss home and refuse to board? How do you deal with it?
I think at first it's quite normal to be homesick. I arrived here from England. I'd heard of Malaysia but didn't know anything about it in January, and I was a bit homesick, and I missed my previous school, I missed my previous colleagues, and I was an adult. And so to expect young people to just come and adjust is very unrealistic. There is a period of adjustment, and all of them will miss home at first. Of course, they'll miss their families, and most of them will miss home even once they're settled in and enjoying boarding. They'll still miss their parents and their siblings, and that's why when they do go home, it's a really good, strong bond between them. They can call their parents, and we do encourage them at first to call at set times, so first thing in the morning and maybe early evening, not at bedtime. So there's certain ways to sort of overcome homesickness. We do try to keep them super busy, because a busy boarder can't be thinking about home and thinking about what they're missing. So we try to keep them occupied. It's very rare for any student to actually leave the school and say that I can't do this. If parents are willing to give the time and the space for them to adjust, our staff are very experienced at setting students in, and normally by the end of the first term, they really are settled in. So I can't say it's never happened, but in 12 years here, 13 years here, I think I can think of one student who really struggled to actually settle in and ended up leaving the school. Everybody else gets there eventually, and that's really good for them. It makes them stronger, it makes them more resilient, and it makes them more independent, which is one of the massive benefits of being in a boarding school. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, John. So that brings us to the end of our virtual open day. Thank you very much for joining us. This webinar has been recorded and will soon be available on the KTJ YouTube channel, where you can find out other you can find videos from other virtual open days which have taken place recently. We also have another virtual open day coming up in just 15 minutes, which is on the IGCSE years at KTJ. So if you would like to find out more about KTJ, please do get in touch with our admissions team. You can email registrar@ktj.edu.my. And if you're unsure of how to spell that, I've just posted that for you in the chat. Or you can go to our website, of course, where you'll be able to find all of our contact details. In the meantime, stay safe, enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.